Welcome to the Mindset RX podcast. My name is Tom Foxley, and before we get into today's show, I just want to bring up again the topic of the free Facebook group I'm running, the Mindset for Functional Athletes Mindset RX Facebook group. It's not the most catchy or snazzy names, I'll give you that, but what's in it is a growing community. It's really taking off actually, and people are getting really interactive. People are asking for help. Others are going to be helping very soon, and it's becoming a pretty cool community to be part of actually. So if you want to be part of that, what we're doing is we're accepting a new batch in once every kind of 10 to 14 days at the most. So if you want to be in, what you need to do is you need to go to Facebook and search for Mindset for Functional Athletes, or I think there's a way you can kind of link around through Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/mindsetrx, so mindsetrxd, and I think it says something about like linked Facebook groups or something like that, but I'm sure you can find it. You guys are intelligent people and up to date with the 21st century, whereas I am clearly not that kind of person. So head there, and I will be posting regular content. I will be putting up videos, I will be putting up training, I will be putting up all kinds of unique insight into the world of Mindset RX and what goes on here, and how we can help you maybe, as well as kind of some special insights into what is mindset. But anyway, have a little chance to check that out. Today's session comes on a Wednesday. I generally post these the day I record them. So I'm recording this on a Wednesday, which means last night I went to, and I know I've mentioned this before, an endurance class with good old John Shelby, the scariest coach in the world, in all the best ways, because every time I go there, I am completely challenged. And I work with him on a one-to-one basis, and I also worked with him in this kind of endurance class that he runs. And the endurance classes, they're scheduled for 45 minutes, and they start at 7:45. And there's been a few times we've finished after 10 in the evening, so they're fairly long, intense sessions. But I enjoy them; they're fun. The reason I'm mentioning this is because they are such a thrashing. And it was last week, but I was prompted to kind of bring this up whilst talking in a recent Facebook Live video I did. I was doing some deadlifts, and I completely psyched myself out in the middle of, before we'd even got to this set. I saw the percentages, and the first thing through my mind was, there's no way I can do that. And whilst there's no truth in here, I recognized that, first of all, it's really weird for me to be seeing this. I haven't felt that way in a long time, but high rep and high intensity deadlifting is a novel stimulus for me right now, because it's new, because I used to avoid deadlifting because of my back. So I isolated some fear there, and I had to drop the weight. I had to kind of bring back or hold myself back from what I could have been doing, and it was kind of it's what would have been, in the years gone by, a massive dig in my ego, a massive kind of dip to my self-worth, and I would have taken that on board, especially because there's athletes there that are in my Inner Athlete Performance Camp, or the Mindset RX Inner Athlete Performance Camp, which is like a 12-week online process for you guys that haven't heard about it before, where we do like loads of mindset work. But there's people in there who are on that. And I was like, I knew I dropped my mindset in front of them. So this would have been something that is like previously a bit of a drop for me. But you know what? I've realized that we all have pretty shitty days. There's been times when but most of the time my mindset is great at the moment. Honestly, 95% of the time, maybe a tiny bit less than that, maybe 92.5% of the time, I'm in what I call free nature. I'm in great place. However, there's plenty of times when I completely drop off, when when I just feel like I'm in bound nature. I feel shitty. I feel like everything's hard work. I feel like I have to really grind through things, and it's not an enjoyable place to be. So the reason I'm telling you this is because I want you guys to understand that this is an ongoing process for me. And just because I've been working on mindset for years doesn't mean that I have perfected it yet. And but the thing is, I know that I can always get better. And this is kind of the theme of an email I sent out recently, that no matter what you can do, you can always take that next step. You can always improve a bit, and change is always a possibility. So there's no reason, no matter how stuck you feel, to keep on feeling the way you do. There's no reason that you should be stuck, because there's change is always a possibility. And like, years ago, I'm sure you guys have heard this story before if you've been listening for a while, but years back, I was in a shitty place with not only my mindset, but my physical body too. I just couldn't succeed in anything I wanted to succeed in. So for me to kind of make progress from there, I promise you can make progress too. It's once you start working on your mindset, you guys are good. And by following these podcasts, by integrating some of the things that I say and kind of provoke you to do. Provoke's a weird word to use, but suggest that you do. There we go. You guys will make huge changes, and just keep on taking the steps forward is all I'm saying with this. So that was a really long intro for what was meant to be just kind of a touch on my journey of Tuesdays. So yeah, it's a really important thing to note that everyone has pretty shit days, and they come, but the more we resist them, the more we fight the feeling of having a shit day, the more they take hold of us, and the harder it is to get rid of them. So today's podcast, the main subject is 5 steps to becoming a more positive athlete. And we hear about positivity the whole time, but it is worth going on over again, because most of us reside on the negative side of the arch. If you got positivity on one side of the arch and negativity on the other side of the arch, both are equally detrimental if they are in a if they're kind of in equal balance. Like, so if you're a 10 out of 10 negative, it's just as damaging to be 10 out of 10 positive too, because you won't see the world with perspective. You'll see the kind of the rose tinted spectacles will take over. But there's 5 steps to become more positive. Most of us reside on the left hand side. We reside on the side of negativity. Because it's partially because of evolutionary stimuli, like evolutionary effects and influence, but also because of our conditioned environment. The world and the media, and without going too tinfoil hatty, is a pretty negative place, and it's suggested to be more negative than actually needs to be. And by bumping up a positivity, we create huge change. We begin to see the possibility of change in our lives as well. We see the potential. We start to see the world with more clarity, and we don't feel groggy and shitty the whole time. We don't feel heavy, and our thoughts bump up, and we feel great about ourselves. And coming from a man who used to listen exclusively to thrash metal and only speak about things that he hated, this has been a huge change. And that carried over to my training. Absolutely, I'd resent training, I'd resent the people at training, but now I'm pretty happy to say that most of the time, like I spoke about before, I'm in a great place, and I just want to pass these lessons on to you guys. So the first one is this concept of the positive proof bucket, and I just spoke about this in an email that I sent out. And by the way, if you're not on my email list, I'll definitely do that, because again, very similar to the Facebook page, I chuck out loads of kind of extra content there. I make sure that anything I send out is not only GDPR compliant, as you guys will probably hear about, but also is something that will be actionable, and something that is useful to you, and something that is worth your while opening. So if you head to mindsetrx.com, so mindsetrxd.com/goal setting guide, there's a free download there, but B, you'll jump on my email list too, and it's a good place to be. And also that means you get access to my personal email too, which is hopefully you'll enjoy. Anyways, the positive proof bucket. Most of us spend time in this state where we choose to see the reasons we can't, the reasons we won't, and the reasons we shouldn't. We feel this, like we get all of those and we dump them in a bucket, and they're there. So whenever we want to rattle through those reasons that we can't and reasons that we've failed in the past, they're there, they're accessible, and we just pick one out and we relive it. And so when you get that hint of belief, when you think, you know what, maybe I could go to the regionals, you know what, maybe I could go to the games, you know what, maybe I could be an incredible human being and become the best version of myself possible and work 2 hours a day and live the dream. When you get that kind of, that beautiful insight for that second, what is amazing is we pick something, or our subconscious mind picks something out of that negative, that negative proof bucket, and it looks at it and goes, yep, that's a reason I can't, and then it roots around for another, and then you go, yep, that's another reason I can't. So loads of us spend time in that negative proof bucket, filling it up, adding new ones, picking things out, remembering why we can't. But what we need to do, and this is the first way you can become a more positive athlete, is by filling up your positive proof bucket, choosing to see the reasons why that you can succeed, to root around in those more often, to relive those more often, to show yourself all those times you're PR'd and all those times you've improved and all the times you've become a better version of yourself, to fill the bucket to overflowing. And slowly but surely the negative proof bucket dwindles and it fades away, and we have this overflowing proof that we can become the possibility and the potential that we are. And this is something that I would never have done in the past. It's like, and I know with athletes that I speak to the whole time, that's the case too with them. We spend so much time rooting around in that negative proof bucket that we just got to get out. And once you do that, the world changes. I promise. The way you see the world changes. The irony is, exactly the same things happen, but just because you see the world with more possibility, like nothing actually really happens, nothing like initially has changed about the situation, but you just see it differently. And when you see it differently, you start to make better decisions and take bigger leaps, and you become a better athlete and a better human being. So the first thing is to look at your positive proof bucket and fill it up every single day. The second point is very much related to this, and it's to count your wins. I know I've spoken about win counting before, but it's the most important thing that you can be doing to fill that positive proof bucket. And this is a very tactical or kind of strategic implementation, which is a case of every single day before you go to bed, write down your wins. And there's something very special about writing them down. When they're on paper, it makes them almost more real. And by wins, I'm not talking about these huge moments of success. I'm not talking about the moments you PR. I'm not talking about the moments that you make it to the games. I'm not talking about these huge wins. I'm talking about the little things, because the big things shouldn't be a surprise. They should be an accumulation of the small things. The small things are what counts. The small things are what makes progress, and it's only by appreciating these small things that are almost insignificantly small that we make progress with this, and that we become a more positive athlete and a positive human being. Give me a moment whilst I just sip on some tea. It's just boring tea. Actually, this is a good chance to say Crank House coffee, probably the best coffee I've had recently. So if you're listening, and in the UK in particular, check out Crank House coffee. It's beautiful coffee. There we go. Nice cup of English builder's tea though. So positive proof bucket and counting your wins. Those are the two initial steps and where I'd start. And another good thing to say about counting your wins as well is that a lot of people do this just at the end, but if you're finding yourself in a real rut, and I've done this with a bunch of athletes, if we find ourselves stuck and you just can't maintain positivity, I get people to count their wins 3, 4, 5 times a day. When they get up, when they first have like a snack or get to work, when they have lunch, when they leave work, and when they go to bed. Like, I'd get them to do it that many times, and just what's happened in the last 3 or 4 hours or so, because it's fresher in the memory. We can note down all the things that we've done that have taken us closer towards who we want to be, or things that we've enjoyed, and it's a massive way to go forwards. So count your wins. The third piece is going to be having a solid vision in place, and I don't mean goals, and by the way, that goal setting guide that I mentioned earlier at mindsetrx.com/goal setting guide, it takes you through how to set a vision and how to create a version of you that you want to be, and how to like really create goals that work. So what I would do is you really need a vision to be positive, because if we don't have a vision, if we don't have a reason why we're training, and we don't know who we want to become, then we start to lose our connection to who we want to be, and we start to lose our connection to why we're doing what we're doing. And when we don't have that connection, it leads to confusion and overwhelm and negativity. Positivity comes from certainty, or enough certainty anyway. There's an interesting there's an interesting correlation between certainty and uncertainty, but when we have enough certainty, we can be positive, and having that positivity there is going to, or having that vision there, is going to link to your positivity. So really getting in touch with who do you want to be in 3 to 5 years, having a clear concept of that, and going towards that aggressively every single day, and reviewing how far you're getting towards that is a brilliant way to go forward to this. So the vision is the next point. Fourth is going to be learning your language, becoming aware of what your inner athlete says when you're training, when you're not training, and when you're on your way to the gym, when you're doing everything. You need to be aware of what your inner athlete is saying to you. So learn your language, become ridiculously aware of your language, and you need to hear the phrases, because you won't realize how negative you're being to yourself until you write this shit down. So starting tomorrow, hopefully, spend 5 minutes to stream what's happening in your consciousness out onto paper, to write it out and to catch those little thoughts. And doing this is such an important step in becoming neutral to the language you use. So not the first step is becoming neutral to it, and then the next step is changing it to positive language that we use. So we don't want to become inundated with negative language. So first of all, we need to write that shit down and to become aware of our language before we start to change it. So learn your language, learn what your inner athlete says, and just see, frankly, how much of a dick we can be to ourselves sometimes. And finally, the fifth point is to keep perspective, to see the world with clarity. And I know I've spoken about this before, but it's so often that we'll see the world through our filter of influence, and we have influence from all over the world, from what parents should do to how school should work to how we should train, how we shouldn't train, and we pick all this up from influence and very rarely our own experience. So when we have all this influence, it removes our perspective. It means that we can't see the situation clearly. We see it with this kind of foggy lens in front of us, and we hope we're making the right decision, but we don't really know. So the last point, and this is kind of a more mystical point, it's a point that takes longer to integrate into your life, is to see the world in more perspective, see it with more clarity, and see the world for what it actually is. So 5 points. First of all, fill your positive proof bucket. Show yourself the reasons you can as opposed to the reasons you can't. Second, count your wins every single day. Go through what you've done that you've A, enjoyed, and B, taken closer to who you want to be. And by the way, this isn't a gratitude journal there. Third, get in touch with your vision. A, show yourself who you want to be in 3 to 5 years, but B, remind yourself on a regular basis who you want to be. Fourth, learn your language, hear what your inner athlete says. And finally, fifth, keep perspective on the situation. If you enjoyed the show, please head over to iTunes, leave a 5-star review. That was a huge gear change, wasn't it? Sudden impact of voice. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a 5-star review and head on over to iTunes. There we go. Leave a 5-star review, all that kind of good shit. Share it with your friends. If you know a CrossFitter or any other kind of athlete who would enjoy this, let them know. Share the love. I love the 5-star reviews, by the way, at the moment, that keep on coming. But most importantly, if you're on Facebook, check out the free Facebook group. It's a fun place to be. So I'll hopefully see you there, and enjoy the rest of your week. Ciao.